wanted to show you guys this. This was really exciting. This made my weekend. I obviously I love Joe Rogan. He's the biggest podcaster in the world. And he recently had on Dave Smith, who's a buddy of mine who I absolutely adore as well. And Joe Rogan has definitely been watching the show and getting into our content. And him and Dave Smith were speaking about how much my content has changed over the last year and how much they enjoy it. And Joe Rogan said this. So I think this is a humble brag a little bit, but I was very excited and I wanted to share it with you guys because obviously this show is only successful because you guys watch it all the time. So take a listen to what he had to say.
The Candace Owens show. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. And it's doing better numbers than any of the shows on cable news.
It's phenomenal. It's like they created a monster with her when they fired her from the Daily Wire. They created a monster.
Yeah, they sure did.
She can't be stopped.
Yeah. Oh no. There's no stopping Candace Owens at this
because she's hitting all the third rails that no one wants to touch. She's got a 6-hour presentation on how Bridget McCrone is a man. I mean, it's 6 hours plus long.
I don't know if she's even kind of right about that.
I think she's right.
But she's got a lot of to say on it.
Bro, she would be getting sued right now instead of they're trying to bribe her. Instead of trying to give her money to shut the up,
yeah,
they would sue her.
Yeah, no, you're probably right about that.
I don't know if they are suing her. Have they tried to file anything? They probably have. They probably filed some bullshit lawsuits
I'm sure she's dealing with several.
I'm pretty sure she's right. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
I think she's right. The whole thing stinks. And what stinks way worse than that giant distraction is that the number one opponent for Macron just got sentenced to 4 years in jail and barred from political life for 5 years.
And the front runner, not just the number one opponent, the one who's winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's what they try to do to Trump plus.
By the way, he is not lying. There is so much that's happening in France right now that I actually said to my team, we are going to have to do a Becoming Brigitte season 2. The updates that we have in that case, what has come out since, and once again, the things that the mainstream media are completely neglecting to cover. Someone else in the Trogno family has now been caught with huge pedocriminal network and charges are being brought against him. I mean, it's just completely insane. And what's happening running alongside this is Emmanuel Macron has apparently lost his mind and he's just threatening and going crazy because it's all coming down and people are recognizing that he's not a serious leader. And so he's trying to exert his power in really weird ways. And I have some stories to tell you that I have had to keep my mouth shut about that I really want to tell you guys. And I really am going to tell you eventually. But I'm thinking we're going to have to do a season 2 of Becoming Brigitte. Anyways, that's not all that they had to say. Here is what else they shared in their conversation.
We talked about Candace Owens before. That's part of what her freaking, boot camp before pissing off all the Israeli supporters was, is that she's already been through the fire.
Yeah.
She's been an outspoken black female conservative. And that's like, they really hate that because they do kind of view you as like, which is f***ed up in a way, but it really is kind of like they decided that they're the champion of women and black people. And therefore, if you're a black woman, it's your responsibility to support these liberal white women. You know,
she used to. That's the thing about Candace.
She went from
when
being
she was very young. She was liberal,
and she was also a hardcore Zionist at one point, like very big supporter of Israel, and then changed her mind on that. But it is, there is a viciousness with which those people get attacked.
I totally agree. I think I was very much forged in fire because I felt like I wasn't allowed to critique BLM. And now I do feel like we fast forwarded to a time where you're not really allowed to critique Israel. And it puts me in a weird spot. Sometimes it makes people on the left and the right not like what I'm saying. But I've definitely, I think, formed my own opinions and am sticking to them. And I try to just always do the right thing. And I'm open to changing my mind. I am open to changing my mind with new information. But I think that people are definitely responding to the honesty and the freedom. And this is the reason why the independent media has really taken over the corporate media space. Anyways, you guys, I want to move on from that. I just was very excited about that because it's Joe Rogan and that's a very big deal. And I think it's really cool that you guys have found the show. And we're going to get into some of your comments later about me and Ian having that conversation, which could have never, ever, ever happened on any corporate media show. In fact, they hate that. They hate people asking questions. But before we get to those comments, I have to show you this. This is super interesting. You guys know that I have my tips box. I was going through our tips email box. You guys send me stuff at tips@candaceowens.com. The best stuff, by the way. That's the reason why I get inspired to do the show. And one of you guys sent me something really interesting about Ryan and Blake. I got to present it to you guys real quickly. So, as you know, long ago, when we were just getting into the lawsuit and understanding all of the players, I had theorized that a large portion of the emails that were written and some of the text messages that we have seen throughout the lawsuit were actually being authored by Ryan Reynolds. There was just a certain decorum in some of the messages that I think he's authoring, which deviate from the style of messages that Blake writes. I've said this many times. I'm not trying to be insulting, just being realistic. Ryan is clever, Blake not so much. And she's much more flirty and she just comes across as less focused. I think she kind of thinks, being cute is enough and somebody else should take care of things for her. And she's a bit bratty. And Ryan is always kind of trying to manipulate. And he has this personality trait where he always sees himself as a character. He's always thinks he's a character. But something that I had never imagined as I was theorizing all of these things was the possibility that Ryan Reynolds, and not Blake Lively, was the one that offered the now infamous Game of Thrones text message, the one where these are my dragons and Ryan and Taylor are my dragons. Never in a million years did I think that it was possible that Ryan Reynolds authored it and not Blake. Now we are at 1 in a million years because I fully think that it's plausible that he was the one that authored it, and I'll tell you why. So way back when Blake Lively was promoting her movie, The Age of Adeline, she was starring alongside in that flick with a guy who was in Game of Thrones. His name was Mikhail Hausman. And so while they were doing press for this movie, they were asking her questions about whether or not she had ever seen Game of Thrones. And just to be clear, Game of Thrones was just about to start its 5th season. So it's 5th season. And Blake Lively admitted that she had never seen it. She basically told them, quote, "My husband, I'm outing him and I shouldn't, but he became obsessed with Game of Thrones." She joked. He did everything that he could to pirate episodes that hadn't even been shot yet. So that was a little tough point in our marriage. Now we're through it because there's a new season coming out. And then right after she chatted with that E! News reporter, season 5 premiered. So she had never seen it. And then I had my producers go through her Twitter feed because, her and Ryan had back forth cute tweets to each other for a very long time. People were following. They were both very active on Twitter, as it was called then. And there's no mention of Game of Thrones. And typically, if you were someone that got into it, I got into it. Everybody had something to say about the season finale. Everybody had something to say about, Cersei Lannister, this or that. Nothing from Blake Lively. Nowhere else does she mention Game of Thrones or being a fan of Game of Thrones. So we know that for the first 5 seasons, she didn't watch it, but her husband got obsessed. So obsessed, as he did get the same kind of obsession that he had with Field of Dreams. Remember, he talks about his obsession with Field of Dreams a lot, and he speaks about it in interviews, how much he loves it. Well, Game of Thrones was this same experience for him where it became a piece of his character, and he wanted to use it as he was promoting his Wrexham UK football team back in December of 2023. Take a listen. I mean, this is so Ryan Reynolds. He has this quality. I'm thinking back, I'm like, obviously it was Ryan. He gets obsessed. Like, he just gets totally obsessed, and he likes to envision himself as these characters. Like we said, Deadpool, he's not playing Deadpool. He is Deadpool. And for her to admit that he became obsessed with this, we know he's controlling and obsessive, and he likes to fancy himself as this big character. Like, he's constantly trying to escape who he actually is via these characters. And I'm sure there is some psychological assessment or diagnosis here that we're missing that somebody can tell us, but because I've seen another person who's like this as well, where like they watch a movie and they think that's me. This is actually who I am. And they want to embody those individuals. And so now you look back at this message and you remember something else. The first time that Ryan Reynolds ever messaged Justin Baldoni, he was the one that name dropped Taylor Swift, not Blake Lively. The very first message that he ever authored, Justin Baldoni, he said this. Now they blanked out her name, but Taylor would say the same. Some of the greatest creative decisions that I've made are, in fact, Blake. The same goes for Taylor. The acting is a small piece of a pretty astounding patchwork quilt of creativity. He's describing himself and Taylor Swift and saying that Blake has helped them make some of their greatest decisions. And that's actually what they reintroduce. That's the same concept that's reintroduced in the now infamous Game of Thrones tweet that Blake writes back to Justin Baldoni when he's like, hey, look, like, you didn't have to get Taylor Swift and your husband to gang up on me. I liked your feedback on some of these edits, and we could have worked together without, A-list bullying, essentially. That's what he was saying. And what does he say? Well, he says, I'm saying he now because I think it's Ryan, both Taylor and Ryan have established themselves as absolute titans, as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig, just singing or just acting or Taylor just directing, or maybe it says Ryan just directing. I'm not sure who's blacked out there. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers. That's effectively the exact same sentence. That's almost the exact same sentence rewritten that he first wrote to Justin Baldoni. Three of us work together, the creative barometers. That's not Blake Lively speaking. Do you really think Blake Lively would talk about creative barometers? That she would call them absolute titans? I just don't feel like this is her vocabulary now that I'm revisiting these messages. And then, of course, that message ends with her saying, if you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. And of course, Ryan probably fancies himself as Khaleesi. I think that's probably the character that he felt the closest to. I really do. I think that deep inside, he wants to be a queen. I think he is a queen. I think Ryan is Queen Khaleesi, and that he authored this message because I don't think Blake Lively has this extensive of a vocabulary on the basis of everything that I've ever seen of her. So I'm putting that theory out there. I think we got that wrong, and that what likely happened was Justin messaged her that, and she's a bit lazy. This is the woman that didn't even read the script. Don't forget, infamously, she didn't even read the script for the movie that she was going to be in. And then suddenly she wanted to make a ton of changes. And I think that was actually Ryan who read the script and wanted to make a ton of changes for her, which he eventually, as we found out, did rewrite the entire first scene. I mean, Blake has proven time and time again she's quite lazy, and she relies on others to do work for her. And it's likely that as soon as Justin messaged her that, she ran over to Ryan and she was like, look what he said. And he was like, I've got this. Creative barometer. Me, Tay. Khaleesi dragons. I am Khaleesi. Don't mess with me or you will get burned. Interesting theory. Anyways, wanted to share it.